Every once in a while, I find a mod so fitting for an idea I've had that I have to make a video on it. Well, this is one of those times. I ask, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as a Shogun? Let me go through some rules. The rules are strict armor code, meaning I will have to wear Shogun armor that comes with the mod, deem appropriate melee weapons, such as the katana, and lastly, honor in combat. This rule aims to accomplish two things. I will have to face enemies head-on, no sneaky assassinations unless absolutely necessary, and retreating from combat is only allowed when survival depends on it. Now, let's get right into the video. I wake up once more on Doc Mitchell's bed. After I'm up, Doc asks me for my name. For this run, my name will be Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was a real shogun who served from 1567 to 1616. I then created Tokugawa as accurately as the game would let me. I picked my special skills, mainly focusing on strength and luck. The rest of my points were randomly selected. Doc asked me to sit on his couch as he had a few questions for me to answer. So I do as I'm told, as this is the man who saved my life. I answer his questions and choose lockpick, melee, and sneak as my skills. For my traits, I choose heavy-handed and skilled. And off into the wasteland I went. I headed to the schoolhouse to collect what was rightfully mine, while making sure not to be eaten alive by mantises. I then looked at myself in all my glory and went to Chet's store to sell all of my guns. I spoke with a woman by the name of Sunny Smiles, who counterintuitively did not smile. I overheard some commotion and saw that Trudy and a man were arguing, so I asked what that was all about. She said the man was after a guy named Ringo who was held up in the gas station on the hill. I headed immediately up to the gas station to talk to this Ringo guy, but to my surprise, he was holding a gun of some sort and was pointing it at me. After he lowered his gun, we talked about Cobb and how we could take him on. He asked me to go recruit some of the town folk, so I started with Sunny Smiles. Then on to Trudy. The men fought hard in battle, but not hard enough, as I used my nata to slice my way through them. I left the town and headed to Prim, but suddenly, I was ambushed by more of those blue jacket-wearing men, so I slaughtered them and continued my way to Prim. I ran into a man by the name of NCR Trooper, and he told me that it wasn't safe here, though I continued my way on, as danger is what I long for. I ran into two more people who seemed to be holding the town hostage, so I proceeded to slice them into pieces. I made my way inside the building, lockpicked a door, and slaughtered more of my enemies. I freed a man named Deputy Beagle, and he told me to talk to him once we got outside. We spoke, and he told me that I had to bring law and order back to Prim, so I decided the NCR would be a good choice. I went to the Mojave outpost to talk with Major Knight about Prim, and told him about the Prim problem, and he said that they would send reinforcements. So I returned to Prim to talk with Lieutenant Hayes, and told him that reinforcements were coming. He said that they would protect Prim. I headed on my way to a town called Novak, but while I was on my way, I was rudely interrupted by Jackal gang members who surrounded me. I had to fend them off with my nata. Following my encounter, I talked with Tomas and decided to kill him for his star bottle caps, as well as killing Oliver, because that's just a must in any playthrough. I spoke to Volpez, and he told me to spread the word of the Legion. Even though I knew full well that I wouldn't do such a thing, I said yes and went on my way to Novak. Suddenly, I was ambushed by Viper gunslingers, so I dealt with them promptly. I made it to Novak the same night. I traded for a katana in the Big Dinosaur, and went out in the blazing sun to look at myself in all my glory. I then made my way to New Vegas, where I had to dispatch a few ants along the way. I finally made it to New Vegas and had to submit to a credit check, which I passed due to earning all my caps by trading. I spoke with Victor outside the Lucky 38, and he told me to go see Mr. House. I told him maybe later, and went on my way to the Tops Casino to confront Benny. I looked at Benny and got my XP, though it wasn't enough, so I headed up to go meet with the Happy Trails caravan. I spoke to Follows Chalk, and he told me to find a man named Joshua Graham. We were making our way to Joshua's camp when a massive Yaogwai appeared, and Follows Chalk told me to stay still. The Yaogwai then promptly left. I then spoke to Joshua Graham, and he told me that a fellow tribe named the Sorrows needed a few pre-war items, and he said how he needed me to retrieve them. I started with the compass and fixed it with the spare parts found nearby. I then collected the 2 walkie-talkies. I then had to collect lunchboxes, which were pretty well hidden all throughout the cabin. After that, I went to fetch some medical supplies and had to sterilize a med kit I found with some alcohol. After I collected all the supplies for the Sorrows, I ran into a woman by the name of Waking Cloud. We spoke, and I went on my way. I spoke with Daniel, and told him how I collected all the supplies. He then told me that I would be sent out again with Waking Cloud as my companion to find some more supplies. While on my way back out, Joshua appeared and told me how he was angry with the Whitelegs, and how he wanted the Sorrows to join him in battle. I then went on my way to find this map I was sent out to get, but I kept stepping on bear traps, one after the other. It seemed like they were never ending, though I did find the map. After finding the map, I had to destroy a few of the Whiteleg encampments, which I did with ease, using my katana. I sliced my way through all of them with my advanced knowledge of this weapon. Following the slaughter of the Whitelegs, I went to go disarm bear traps, but my repair level wasn't high enough. So I wanted to test a theory that if I put an object on the traps, they would activate. Sadly, it didn't work. So I decided to do the dumb thing and use my own legs to disarm the traps. Not saying that the paint chips I ate as a kid had anything to do with the conclusion I came to. I went back to Daniel to tell him of my success, and he said that he would need to escape from Zion. But I then convinced him to stay and help the dead horses in the Battle of Zion. I then spoke with Joshua for the last time as he was made my companion, and we went on our way to destroy the Whitelegs. The Whitelegs fought hard, but not hard enough. My training for many years proved to be more effective than their guerrilla warfare techniques. I made it to the end, and Joshua did his monologue. Salt upon wounds, begged for his life. I told him to stand up and fight so that he could die with honor. After the DLC came to a close, I headed back out into the wasteland once more. I spoke with Mr. House, and he told me to convince Swank so I could kill Benny. Following that, I headed to the Tops Casino and informed Swank of Benny's shady side, and he told me that all he could do for me was allow me to bring my weapons into the casino. I then followed up with Benny by murdering all of his men, and then him. I took the platinum chip and went up to Benny's room to go speak with Yes Man, as I was going to be siding with him for this run. I spoke with Yes Man, and he told me to go take out Mr. House. I obliged and went over to the Lucky 38 to confront Mr. House. I opened the terminal and headed down to Mr. House. I waited for his chamber to open. I then took him out with a few good swings from my katana. After the deed was done, I headed back to speak with Yes Man and tell him of Mr. House's demise. He told me to meet him at the Lucky 38 so he could upload himself into the computers. I obliged and met him there. He ran me through the demonstration, which was boring as always. I started my journey to the fort to use the chip to upgrade the rest of the Securitrons when I was suddenly attacked. I had to fend them off with my blade, and they proved no match for me, so I continued my way to the fort. I made it to Kaisar's fort. I spoke with him, and he told me to destroy whatever was down in the fort. I said yes, even though I was lying through my teeth. He gave me back the platinum chip, and I went on my way down to the fort. I had to destroy many robots and turrets while making my way through the bunker. After that was done, I had to install the chip to update the system. I then made my way out of the bunker. I went back to New Vegas to deal with the White Glove Society, as I had to meet all of the factions of the Mojave. They just happened to be first on my list. I entered and told the door guard that he could kick rocks and that I wasn't giving him my weapons. So I decided to kill everyone in the casino besides Heck Gunderson. Speaking of Heck Gunderson, that's who I spoke to next. I told him that I would find his son and went on my way. I found Ted on the lower level being held hostage in the freezer. We escaped and I had to kill a lot more White Gloves, which was pretty easy as always. I spoke to Mr. Gunderson and told him that his son was safe. He said that he would no longer be supplying the strip with food, but I quickly talked him down off that ledge. I went back to Yes Man and told him of the White Glove Society's downfall and how they had been wiped off the map. He then told me how I needed to go speak with the boomers. I headed to Nellis Airport to speak with the door guards. I made it to the gates and spoke with the guards. I then spoke to Pearl, and she told me to help out around Nellis to gain the trust of her people. So I headed off to the Boomers Museum to speak with Pete about the Boomers' history. After learning who the Boomers were, I asked Pete some questions and got some answers. I then went to go take care of the Boomers' ant problem under their solar array. I killed a few ants here and there, as well as taking all the ammunition down there so I could sell it later on. I told Raquel that her ant problem was no more, which got me idolized by the boomers. I spoke with Pearl and she told me to go talk with Loyal about the lady in the water. So I went out to the hangars to go speak with Loyal, and he told me that I needed to raise the bomber from the bottom of the lake and report back to him. But before that, I spoke to Jack to get the rebreather. After getting the rebreather, I headed to the lake and started swimming. I reached the bomber and attached the ballast to the undersides of the wings and hoped for the best. I got onto land and watched as the bomber rose from the depths. I headed back to speak with Loyal and told him how his plan actually worked. He told me that the robots would disassemble the plane and bring it back to the base. Now with that over, I asked Pearl if she could assist me in the Battle of Hoover Dam. which she agreed to. Next, I made my way to Red Rock Canyon to destroy the Khans. I arrived at their camp and instantly began to slaughter their people. I killed 1, then 2, and then 3 and 4. I then headed inside to kill the rest of them. I headed back to Yes Man and told him of my accomplishment. I said that the Khans would no longer be a problem for us. I went back to talk with Veronica to make her my companion, just for a second, so I could get into the Brotherhood of Steel's bunker. I talked to Ramos and thought he was pretty chill, so I went back to Yes Man to tell him that I wanted the Brotherhood of Steel to be left alone. He then told me that I needed to power up a substation. I went inside without having to fight anyone, and I powered up the substation. I headed back to speak with Yes Man and told him that I powered up the station. Now it's time for the dam. I had to fend off multiple Centurions, slicing each one with my trusty blade. After making it down to the control room, I had to slay 2 NCR soldiers who were wearing power armor. I then made my way inside and installed the override chip. While making my way to the other side of the dam to turn on a switch to power up the other Securitrons, I ran into a few Legionary members who I quickly dispatched. I flipped on the switch and made my way topside. I made it to the Legate's Gate and entered the fort. I had to fight off multiple melee enemies who were harder to deal with. I then spoke to Legate Lanius, who, instead of battling with blades, we battled with words. I told him that there was wisdom in defeat, and he told me that there was wisdom in my words, and that he would leave. I made my way to the gate, and boom! General Oliver blew down the door. I spoke with him and told him that Hoover Dam was mine. I then told my Securitron army to destroy General Oliver and his men. I spoke with Yes Man and finished the game. So yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas as a Shogun.